Hi there, welcome to the video on social learning theory, which is paper 2 AQA and second part of the learning approach really, but it still stands alone as its own section. So you could potentially get a question on social learning theory as an alternative to the behaviourist approach. So we're going to be looking at this today. Please follow, please like, please watch to the end. We'll give some exam techniques as we go through. So yeah, welcome to this. So key terms for social learning theory. Feel free, pause at any time, have a little look. These are all terms that you will come across. It's so important when you're doing exam questions. Use your key terms, use the terms that you will have been taught, use them in your language, because the more you use them, the less that you will have to, less content you have to write because you're using those words and you're showing the examiner you know what you mean. So learn them, make flashcards and use them in your everyday language so you get used to them. Okay, so I'll just read through them, but obviously you can pause this and take this down. So imitation, copying the behaviour of others. Identification, when an observer associates themselves with a role model and wants to be like the role model. Modelling, from the observer's perspective, imitating the model. From the role model's behaviour, modelling is the precise demonstration of a specific behaviour imitated by the observer. So essentially it's looking at somebody and wanting to be like them, or imitating somebody that you are interested in. Vicarious reinforcement. So this one is a key word that is definitely worth knowing, one that comes up quite a lot. Reinforcement, not directly experienced, but occurs through observing someone else being reinforced for the behaviour. It's a key factor in imitation. You could get a short answer question on this, a 2-marker, or an applied 4-marker. So definitely learn that, and once you get to grips with it, it's okay. Don't mix it up with vicarious punishment. They don't mention vicarious punishment on the specification. They do mention vicarious reinforcement, but essentially that's where you observe somebody else being punished, and so you don't want to carry on that behaviour, and reinforcement is they're being rewarded. Mediational processes, so that mediational is like your thinking, things that go on in the head, and this occurs between the stimulus and the response. So it's an alternative cognitive factors, and again I know questions have come up where they've referred to mediational processes, and students might have known what they are but not being able to apply them because they've not known that term properly. The example of mediational processes in social learning theory we'll come on to later, but it is attention, retention, motivation and reproduction. So that ARM acronym: attention, retention, reproduction and motivation. So the social learning theory was originally introduced by Albert Bandura, who said that you do not need to experience something you learn, you need only observe the behaviour and its consequences. So a nice little quote from Bandura there. It's different to the work of Skinner and the behaviourist approach because it has this idea of thought processes. It recognises that we're not just reacting to our environment, so that makes it different. So these are the types of questions you could get a 4-marker asking you about how it's different. We think about what we are doing and then we choose to imitate that behaviour. So it acknowledges that humans actually have this choice and control. So for example, we may observe someone in our class achieve a merit for excellent homework. We may then choose to work harder next time on our homework to achieve a merit or similar. And the big difference is that we think about the process of how we learn. Social learning theory explains behaviour patterns as having been learned through a process of operant and observational learning, so it's that combination. According to social learning theorists, the reinforcement, punishment and models are provided by the social environment. By watching the behaviour of others, the learner may imitate the behaviour they see. They tend to only imitate if the other person is rewarded or reinforced for their behaviour. This is known as vicarious reinforcement. So I'll try and put the links to the videos underneath, but vicarious reinforcement is obviously, as I mentioned earlier, where you observe somebody else being rewarded and then you choose to imitate it or not. And again, it's a choice there. So this is your ARM, the acronym ARM. Bandura said there are 4 conditions necessary for modelling occur, and these are also known as mediating factors, so the thinking process. Attention, the person notices someone doing something noteworthy. Retention, the person recalls what they observe. Motor reproduction, the person replicates the behaviour concerned or not, as the case may be. And motivation, the person seeks to replicate or avoid the behaviour that they've observed, and this is motivated often by an increase in reward. So you need to learn this. So it's attention, retention, motor reproduction, or motivation. So you may see it in some places that it's arm with just reproduction. I do it as but just really that's okay. And actually, it doesn't matter if you mix up motivation and motor reproduction, or these two go sort of opposite way round. Okay, so we need to have some evidence. The Bandura did lots of different experiments, and again, you will probably have looked at maybe this one or a similar alternative. So just make sure you know one of them that you could use to explain social learning theory and how it develops, and then you've got a piece of research you can evaluate in your evaluation. So Bandura in 1963 carried out the following experiment which demonstrates observational learning. 3 groups of children watched a film of an investigator, an adult, being aggressive towards a model, the Bobo doll. Group A saw the investigator being punished as a result of her behaviour. Group B saw her being rewarded. Group C saw no reward or punishment. The children were then placed in the room with the Bobo doll and their behaviour was monitored. The results were as follows. So the children who observed the adult rewarded for beating up the Bobo doll were more likely to be aggressive to the Bobo doll than children who saw the adult be disciplined. They did not show any aggression. The group who saw no reaction towards the adults afterwards showed a medium amount of aggression. So 3 variations. They all saw the same adult with the Bobo doll, and there's some pictures here of it, but it was these 3 variations at the end that made it different. So one of them, the adult was rewarded, yay, well done. The other, the adult was told off, no, that was really bad. And the last one just had no difference. So the children were in one of the 3 conditions there. And so then they obviously then had the children be allowed to go and play with the Bobo doll and other toys, and they found that the ones that were rewarded were then more likely to beat up the Bobo doll, and quite violently as well. And if you've seen this video, this little girl is going in with a hammer and this boy is really giving it some. So and yeah, that was quite sort of shocking, and the first evidence that had come around that showed that yeah, children do imitate what they see. There are lots of variations. There's variations where they have children shown the same gender, so boys watch a man, girls watch a girl, same age, and obviously the more like they are, then the more likely they are going to imitate as well. But for the purpose of your approaches, you just need to know one example. This one is the most simple, shows the results, so I use that one. Okay, and then there's 2 other versions here, which I'll try and just put the links on at the end. So we've talked a little bit about the mediating factors. So these are the things that the children would think about when they are in that sort of process. I'll just skip to that on, but yeah, it's the thinking process. So we've talked about that, and again, that has come up in the previous question, so just see if you can make sure you're okay with that: attention, retention, motivation, motor reproduction. And then I talk a little bit about copycat behaviour. So these, again, this would have been before, or when you guys were quite young. London riots in 2011, and then we had more recently some riots in the summer. The government currently put big prison, or in the summer 2024, put big prison sentences in place for the people that rioted in the UK in 2024. That was showing vicarious punishment, but showing kind of the government weren't going to stand for that, and they went high. And obviously now some of them are getting really big sentences for that behaviour. So they're showing, you know, lead by example, don't do this because you will get those big punishments. So that is used, a really good sort of example of how social learning theory is used in sort of everyday life as well. So then vicarious reinforcement, we've talked a little bit about this, involves learning through the observation of the consequences of the actions of other people. When a learner observes someone that they identify with and the role model receives reinforcement, the learner is motivated to imitate the behaviour as if they've been reinforced themselves. People are more likely to imitate people of the same sex, age, or those that they look up to a higher status. So nice sort of description, definition there. So I'm going to add in some more evaluation on my next slides. I can't go back, so I'll just talk through these, but then we'll go through in a bit more detail. It takes into account cognitive factors, the strength. It uses experimental and non-experimental techniques. So Bandura used experimental, the lab study, and observational methods. And it's applied well to many areas of behaviour, but it doesn't take into account individual differences. It's very much looking at a large group of people, and it doesn't account for all behaviour. It's quite sort of narrow in that respect. So a bit more detail here. The limitation of the theory is the over-reliance on lab studies. Lab studies are often criticised for being too contrived in nature, where participants may respond to demand characteristics. It has been thought that the children believed that they were doing the right thing by hitting the doll and behaving as expected. So that kind of flips it round a little bit, because actually, if you think about it, as a young child, they don't know, well, they don't really know that they're being tested. But they think this is a little bit strange. I'm just going to do what I'm expecting to do. So obviously they're then going to copy what they saw did. So if the adult hit, then they were going to do that. If the adult didn't hit, then it got rewarded for, if the adult got rewarded for hitting, then they're going to do that. If the adult got told off for hitting, then they're not going to do that. So yes, that is kind of social learning theory, but it's low in your internal validity there, because actually they're behaving in that way because they want to do the right thing rather than imitating the behavior of the adult. So just take a little bit of time just to get your head around that, and if you can get to that point, that will be really, really helpful as an evaluation point. So it also underestimates the influence of biological factors. Bandura doesn't refer to biological factors in learning. It's been found more recently that observational learning can be increased by mirror neurons in the brain, which allow us to emphasize and imitate other people. There is a biological explanation for learning which is overlooked by the SLT approach. So again, that's because when Bandura was working, we didn't know about mirror neurons, but essentially it's when you observe somebody else learning something, you get those connections in your brain as well, and that's how we can then get those connections. So I guess in a way, social learning theory was kind of the first explanation of that, but it wasn't scientific and biologically referenced at all. But it is able to explain cultural differences in behaviour. So, for example, in different cultures, different behaviours can develop, such as queuing for a bus. This can be explained by social learning theory and mediational processes. So that's a real strength, because if we look at different cultures, each culture is different, or even in countries and towns, different communities are different, because that's how we observe and we kind of think is okay to behave, and that then is an explanation for that. So what I would say now, we're getting to the end of this of our social learning theory, which hopefully you've enjoyed and has given you a good chance to kind of do a little whistle-stop tour of social learning theory. Go back over your notes, put them into description, put it into evaluation, and then you've got the template for an essay. Okay, so what you want to do for all of your approaches is build up a template for an essay, or build it up as a mind map. And then you've got your A01, A03, and then if you've planned that, you've got potential essays for all of your approaches. And then when we come on to looking at comparing the approaches, you can pick those across as well. Any questions, anything you want to me to go through in more detail, pop it in the comments below, pop it on my page, and I'll try and make some little updated videos for this. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, just like and subscribe, watch to the end so that you get all the exam tips and all the latest videos. Thank you.